Welcome everyone to our episode 86 of our podcast, Cultivating a New Generation. In today's podcast, I have an honored guest, Rachel Clissold, and with her, I'm going to talk about the quantum access to your quantum life. That's the topic, that's the title of our episode. And Rachel is asking people, are you a leader creating powerful impact? On the outside, you look successful, yet on the inside, you are in turmoil, feeling unfulfilled and insecure. That's what happens sometimes. No matter how much impact you are creating, it's not fulfilling. Why? Because you don't feel amazing. Let's change that. You know, the time is now to make a change and start to feel amazing about yourself and life again. It is really that simple. We converse as we are talking. I tune in to uncover what's holding you back, things you didn't even realize are inadvertently holding you back in life, in relationships, and in business. Rachel's helps to uncover your layers and thrive into a quantum life. So thank you, Rachel, for being here. It's really a pleasure to have this amazing conversation.
No worries. Thank you for having me in that beautiful introduction.
Thank you.
No
So
worries.
let's begin with the first question, that is, how did you arrive into this amazing quantum life?
Oh, traveling the world. I I really learned to first and foremost trust myself. And through that trust, I was able to surrender. Um, because a lot of the experiences that I had when I was traveling, people would look at it and think, from the outside, it looks reckless, which, you know, I was hitchhiking around Hawaii and Ibiza, and, you know, that can be reckless if you're not listening to if this person is safe or not to get in the car with, you know? And because I trust myself, I can trust other people because I have that discernment. If I don't trust you, there's a reason for it. So if I self abandon and ignore that, then it blows up in my face. And I've had things blow up enough in my face over the years to know when something's in alignment or not, you know?
Nice.
So that's how I kind of came to my own quantum life through trial and error of not even making mistakes, of just like not listening to that intuition, not listening to that knowing of like something doesn't feel right, you know? And I think, I was quite blessed when I traveled because I did listen to that and I didn't get into any dangerous situations, because I trusted myself. So, yeah.
So you are the kind of woman that really listens to that inner voice that
hmm
usually speaks to us, but we
hmm
are too tight, too closed, and
hmm
too programmed to follow what
hmm
other people say or what other people approve
hmm
and not what we want to do. No?
hmm Yep. Or we're too busy and distracted and like numbed off, really. Like for me, the last couple of years, I've been really honing in on my health and, quit smoking and vaping and drinking and like went to the gym like consistently over the last couple of years and just really honing in on my health. And through like releasing all of those things that weren't really serving me, I'm actually able to sense like um things at a deeper level now, you know? So it's like all these distractions take us away from the ultimate truth, which is in our body, which, is a guidance system um to like joy and the quantum life, right?
Yes. Yes, the vibrations that we feel. And
Mm,
just as you mentioned before, this kind of feeling that some people can just exude with their way of being. Sometimes that's what we are not attuned to, and that's when we make mistakes. Can be people, can be jobs, can be um, any kind of conflict that we pull ourselves in, and just because we didn't listen to those kind of vibrations, no, that many people are giving us, but we don't seem to pay attention because we are distracted, because we are in the busy life.
Or we pick it up and we kind of like gaslight ourselves and be like, oh, no, no, I'm just overreacting, or like you give them the benefit of the doubt, and then
Yeah.
it bites you in the ass. It's just like, oh, should have listened to that initial, like, something's not quite right feeling. And even I think, I'm pretty sure it's Richard Branson. He can tell from somebody's handshake if he's going to do business with them or not.
Yeah.
So it's paying attention to like everything, the subtle things that you pick up that you kind of breeze over or don't pay attention to. Yeah, it's all there, but it's like, are you listening, right? And
Yes.
if you're listening, what are you doing about it? Are you fobbing
Exactly.
it off and going, oh, no, just like I said before, give them the benefit of the doubt? Or do you listen to that? Ooh, like, warning, warning.
Yeah, those are the red flags that we usually try to, as you mentioned, just not paying attention, giving the doubt, giving the benefit, and like that you can pass 10 years or more, or a
Mm-hmm.
lifetime, just not paying attention to many of the signals, many of the things, and
Yeah.
suddenly you can arrive to your life and watch back and say, oh,
Mm-hmm.
I have wasted a lot of time.
Yeah.
So now
Yeah.
it's time to really enjoy and do the things that I was
Mm-hmm.
supposed to do, that I really
Mm.
wanted to do, but I
Mm-hmm.
probably um, didn't pay too much attention to my own inner self. So my
Mm-hmm.
question now is, how did you realize that you have to center yourself into having that attunement, having that curiosity with yourself?
Uh, Probably the travel. Because I started traveling in 2010 around the world, and I knew I didn't know. I knew I was so conditioned and living in this box that was so constrictive and didn't feel good. And I knew in my heart, in my soul, there was more to life than the confines of like conditioning and like judgment and like materialism and all that stuff. I was just like, I want more than this. It was like consuming, and I had this deep inner knowing that travel would be the thing that would wake me up to that. So it was really like a culmination of 10 years of travel, and then just meeting amazing humans along the road, and like opening my eyes up that there's a whole nother world out there. There's all these cuisines and language and cultures and like beauty of the world, like like architecture and like the land, the energy of the land. It's just like intoxicating, and just yeah, it's like being on the road around the world just yeah showed me a whole nother way of being, and then just things started to activate within myself because I was always very intuitive as a child, but it was too I knew a lot of things and it was just too overwhelming, so I shut it down. And then through the traveling, it started to you know, traveling the world as a woman alone, I had to rely on my senses to keep me safe, right? Um, so just yeah, through the travel, it started to activate parts of myself that I shut down. And through that, that's where I started to center and ground and come back into myself. And, you know, I continue to grow, I continue to evolve, and I continue to lean into that. So it's just like, you know, it's a constant evolution, right?
Yeah.
It's a constant becoming.
I love the way you just express every single interaction that you had, because it seems like you are traveling again in your mind to many of those
Ah.
places, to many of those people, and and it feels that passion that you transmit
Mm,
to the people,
mhm.
to me, of course, that
Yeah.
you are a very affectionate person
Mm,
towards many other people, and that
mhm,
interaction in terms of the science, because I always like to go a little bit into the scientific background, because that's
mhm.
most what people sometimes are curious but don't understand, and I
Sure.
like just to clarify those things. These kind
Yeah.
of connections that you are explaining with that passion is the oxytocin that we liberate, that we release.
Mm,
That
mhm,
hormone is so
mm,
important for us, and we could
mhm,
appreciate that those 2 years that we had with these strange,
mhm.
contradictory measures that we have, and
Sure.
isolating ourselves from the people, from humans, was the most damaging effect for everyone. So
Oh
I
yeah.
understand completely that
Mhm,
having that interaction with cultures, with people, with languages, with
mm, mhm,
new, completely new
mhm,
landscapes, is
mhm.
just turning on many things inside of you that are telling you this is who you are and this is how you
Yeah.
act. You don't need a book, you don't need rules, you don't need
Mhm,
those kind of restrictions, and
mm,
you are
mhm,
just free. And that's what
mhm,
we are here to experience, that freedom,
mm,
that capacity
mhm,
of relating to each other and helping each other,
mhm. And like as you're sharing that, it's really interesting because like, you know, not a lot, a few of the places I went to, there's the language barrier. I don't, you know, going to Italy, I know like, you know, a couple of words, but not enough to, you know, hold down a conversation. So it almost like creates even more of a connection and you figure out how to communicate without communicating, you know? It's just that it's like hilarious because you just get lost in translation. You're like, I don't know what you're saying.
Yeah,
But you somehow figure it out together, you know?
yeah, exactly.
So,
I
mm,
totally understand, because I had a trip almost, I guess, 15 years ago to Korea, to Seoul,
mhm, mm, mhm,
and I didn't speak the language, of course. I didn't speak Korean.
mhm,
It was a job trip, but
mhm.
it was a vacation for me because
Sure,
I
yeah.
really interacted a lot with people. Many of them in the street didn't speak English, so I
Mhm,
had to just have something written to the place where I wanted to go, or just
mm,
make
mhm,
signs of eating or something like that. And it was very
mm,
funny because people
mhm,
were very kind in trying to
mm,
understand you, in trying to see your
mm.
expression, your um, corporal language,
Sure.
and how you are suffering sometimes to express what you
Yeah.
want. So they
Yeah.
open more, and they
Mm.
pick up the signals, and it's
Mm.
like they are guessing what you want.
Yeah. It's so cool, right? To like see, and it's almost like a surrender. It's just like trusting that what you need will show up. Like when I originally started traveling, I didn't have a phone. I didn't have an iPhone. So I remember I was in Greece, and you know, everything's written in Greek. I don't understand Greek. It's all gobbledygook to me.
Yeah.
And I have to get to my hotel, and the trains were down. So I get on the bus, and I'm like, I don't know where I'm going. And ended up like speaking to this local man who was getting off at the same stop as my hotel, and he walked me to my hotel.
Mm,
Like, whereas nowadays everybody's like, no one interacts. Everyone's looking at their iPhone. They're like, all
yeah.
right, type in the address for the hotel. I'm gonna follow this map, you know? Whereas back in the day, I didn't know where I was going. I'd ask for directions.
Yeah.
And it was just like, you got that human connection, right?
Yeah, that for me is more a quantum life than the one that
Mm,
we have now. Now we have a completely artificial life that is
yeah.
just made up of interactions with the devices, not with the people. No,
Mm-hmm.
you have so much interaction with those kind of digital things that you
Mm-hmm.
sometimes forget how to speak to people, and you are even afraid
Mm-hmm.
of in having a talk with someone, and many people is so protected of what are you going to do or what are you going to say or things
Yeah,
like
what do you want from me? Like you say
yes,
hello and they're like, what do you want?
it's
Wow.
so funny, and more now that they just took off this kind of the masks, the face masks.
Mm-hmm.
So now that you
Mm.
can see people and the smiles, I am really just so happy that we just left that behind, because I really missed seeing people faces and seeing people expressions, because with those
Mm.
kind of things you didn't even know who they are. So,
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the connection, right? It's the
yeah,
humanity, the smile, the face, the
yeah, and
yeah.
you completely make up another face. It was very funny
Mm.
because
Mm-hmm.
once, sometimes when I had more interaction with certain kind of people in the gym or something, that they had this face mask,
Mm-hmm.
and when I saw them without the mask, I completely had another face in my brain. I had another
Mm.
picture of their face. And once they
Sure.
took out the face mask, I said, "Oh my God, I didn't know you look like that." So
Wow. Yeah.
that's really sad, because they played with our brain, they played with those hormones and those
Mm.
connections. And that's why many people are having right now a lot of issues in terms of the mental health, because
Mm.
they were
Mm-hmm.
deprived so much from that kind of connection that we need, that is
Yeah.
part of us, that is part of our biology, of the
Mm-hmm.
evolution,
Mm.
that we now are starting to learn how to walk again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel you.
So, what can you tell me about a story in your travel, in your multiple travel places, that really give you a very meaningful experience in terms of growing and in terms of knowing yourself?
Mm. Ah, probably it's really interesting. I was literally just sharing this. I had a client call just now and I literally just shared it with her. Um, I was in Hawaii and even prior to that, I remember writing on a post-it note, book ticket to Hawaii, and this thing literally pops up on my screen, half price ticket to Hawaii. So I was like, I'm gonna book that right away. Um, and I was just fully held in this trip. Like I'd met somebody in Australia. He's like, you can have my apartment for 10 days. So got given this apartment for 10 days in Waikiki. Um, and I was so distressed because I went to Hawaii for Hawaii, not shops that are open till 1 a.m. and like the tourist trap of, Waikiki. And I was so distressed. And I met this beautiful woman, and she's like, "Just go to another island." I'm like, "Which one?" And she's like, "Just pack your bag, go to the airport, book a ticket, jump on a plane, and go." I'm like, "All right." And my body was like fully shaking, like so shaking. And all I had was like a carry-on. That's all I took to Hawaii. And I booked the ticket and ended up going to Kauai. I'm like fully shaking on the plane. And I get off and I'd managed to book this hostel. And I missed the bus. And I was like so distressed that I almost booked a ticket to go back to Waikiki. And ended up meeting this dude and hitchhiked with him and his family to the hostel. And I got to the hostel, and that's when I was still drinking at the time, and I was like shaking. And I went and bought a beer to calm my nerves, and it like took me a while to like calm. And then I slept that night, and I woke up that morning, and I'm like, "Can I swear on here?"
Yeah, of
Oh no,
course.
no swearing. Yeah, I
Yeah.
woke up in the morning. I'm like, "Fuck it." I packed my bags and I checked out of the hostel, and I'm just like, I just went into full surrender. And I had money, I could stay places. That wasn't the point. The point was like, I want to surrender to the universe and see what happens. And it was magical.
Mm.
Magical. I didn't have any fear in me whatsoever. I was just like, just show me. And then the dad that I hitchhiked with, he ended up coming to pick me up, and I organized this helicopter ride for like $100 each, which normally, in the tourist trap, you're paying a couple $100 each. We got in with this helicopter dude, and no one else was in the air because he planned it so that we could go in when no other helicopters were around. We end up flying into this area like where no one else goes into, and had the most magical helicopter flight. Ended up staying the night at the helicopter pilot's place with him and his girlfriend. End up meeting these amazing humans through him, and it was like I met. Oh, it was this dance of like, I'd meet this other person and I'd leave their, that place, and they'd welcome me into their home, and just like this melodic dance. I was like hitchhiking around the island, and it was just this powerful experience. I remember I did the Nepali coast walk, which is a hike, 2 mile or 11K hike that you can do. And I remember getting to this hike and just feeling this like rush of energy through my body, and like
Mm.
these islands are so powerful, and just like because it's volcanic and you're surrounded by this body of water. So like the energy there is so pure that it reflects where you are, a lot like Bali, in the sense of like if you're in love, if you're in surrender, if you're in trust, you're just held and loved, like my experience. But if you're moving in a space of heaviness and fear, like you get bitch slapped with an experience, which happened to me a couple times in Bali. Um, so it's just like, yeah, like Hawaii just cracked me open to surrender of the feminine, really, and the surrender of trust that we are so held
Yeah.
and supported by the universe. But if we're in the way, if we're like, I could do this myself, we block all the beauty. Um, so does that answer the question? I think it.
Yeah, yes, yes, yes. Actually, it made me travel to also an experience that I had where I also travel alone. I
Mm,
was not very used to traveling alone here inside of Mexico. I was traveling alone outside of Mexico. And for me, it was easy to do that because people sometimes outside open more than in your own country. So I
mm,
was a little bit afraid of traveling
mm-hmm,
inside here. And that was my first trip. I was alone also, and in the hotel that I stayed, it was near, not in the place of the expensive hotels near the
mm-hmm,
beach. It was a little bit farther, but the towels look like one of the hotels that was in the expensive zone. So I said, well,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to stay here, and if someone tells me to get out, I just get out. That's it, because the
Mm-hmm.
towels are the same. So it can pass like that. And I just
Sure.
stayed in one of the chairs, of the beach chairs that are there, and I had my wallet. It had everything that identified me, and my money and my cards and everything, and anyone could look for my things. So I said,
Mm-hmm.
nothing is going to happen. I'm going to put it
Mm-hmm.
below the towel, and I'm just going to go and swim, because I love swimming. And I went to swim in the sea. I was there, and I don't know, I stayed like 30, 40 minutes or 1 hour. And then I start feeling the itching in my skin, because this bad water uh, pinch me in my skin. It is something like this. I don't know how to say it in English, but I just slip my word. But I had an experience in the sea, and it bring me those itching skin. So I
Mm-hmm.
went out and went to the hotel, and one of the waitress there offered me a remedy of vinegar and mustard, and he
Mm-hmm.
put it in my skin, and I just felt really good. I didn't know
Mm-hmm.
anyone in the hotel. I didn't know these guys, and I saw that they were playing volleyball in the pool. So I said, well, let's play volleyball now. So I just
Mm-hmm.
went in the pool of the hotel, and I just start playing as if I were a guest.
Sure.
And the whole day just flow like that, as you
Yeah.
mentioned, just dancing and just experiencing
Yeah.
very,
Mm-hmm.
very simple things, but
Mm-hmm.
where you are not afraid, where you are not
Mm-hmm.
in protection, when you are not
Mm-hmm.
knowing no one. Sometimes is the better thing that can happen, because
Mm-hmm.
it's making contact with other human beings and start
Mm-hmm.
uh, an interaction or a friendship that can
Mm-hmm.
last very well. No.
Exactly. And I think, yeah, the word open really jumped out to me when you shared that. It's like if you're not open to it, none of that happens,
Yeah.
because people kind of can, even if they're not conscious of it, people will read your energy about, oh, let's not go there.
Hmm.
It's like your doors are closed to the world, and all people see is a closed door.
Yeah. Yes.
Um,
Totally.
Yeah.
So
It's so much fun, isn't it? When you live like living in that space, it feels like life, and this is where the quantum life comes in, right? It just life opens up possibilities
yeah.
that you wouldn't even like. That's why I don't like to plan my trips when I go away, because for me, it closes the door on what the universe wants to provide for you.
Yes. 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 Very many times it's much better to just go and discover what is going to
Mm-hmm.
come, and that's it.
So much
So
fun.
how do you advise people in terms of these contractions, this kind of uh, feeling
Mm-hmm.
safety and
Mm-hmm.
feeling secure? Because nowadays a lot of people just close, and they are not open to that spontaneous experiences. So
Sure.
how do you help people to pass through those doors?
Sure. Well, it's hmm. So first of all, if there's any kind of unresolved trauma, um, or like pain or disease that's stored in the body, like that's what blocks that as well. Um, so first and foremost, we address the things that are holding them back from seeing that, you know, because there's this safety mechanism within them that's like, an old kind of conditioning that in the past worked, but right now they don't need it anymore. It's like an outdated kind of program, So we need to update the program by resetting the nervous system, clearing and cleansing the body so that they can rebuild on a solid foundation, and then they can begin to trust themselves because they're on a solid ground versus on like quicksand. It's just like you can't build on sand, right?
No.
Or you can, but it won't last long, right?
Yeah.
um, so yeah, it's just like building that solid foundation within, and from that space, then they're actually able to rebuild the structures, and because if I did what I did, not having that solid foundation of trust in myself, who knows what could have gotten wrong, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's really doing the inner work, and then you're actually able to open up, right?
Mhm.
Because you got that solid trust in the self, so then you can trust what shows up. Like you trusted yourself to leave your wallet there, right?
Yeah, I have to.
To the out Yeah, like to the outside world, that's reckless because anyone could come along and steal that. But in your inner world, you knew it would be okay, so it was okay, right?
Exactly.
So yeah, when we I know I've said it a few times, but when we create that solid foundation, then the doors of opportunity open up. You can begin to feel again. You can begin to soften in your body and read people's energies and go, "Ooh, that person doesn't feel safe. I'm not going to go anywhere near them." You know?
Yeah.
And like for me personally, I learned on the road. I learned to read the energies because I had to, because it was my safety on the line, right? Um, and I kind of stand out. I'm a tall, blonde, blue-eyed woman. Like, I don't blend into a crowd. Um, so it's just like, again, it's that trial and error. It's like, does this feel good? If it doesn't, it's like having the courage to say no,
Yeah.
and equally the courage to say yes, saying yes to life and no to what doesn't feel good. And I think that's where people get lost. They appease people, you know. We say yes when we mean no, and
Mm.
it's really that simple. It's saying an aligned yes and an aligned no.
Yeah, that's really, really powerful. Saying
Mm-hmm.
yes when you really want to, and saying
Mm-hmm.
no when you are just feeling those sensations, and you don't need
Yeah.
to explain anything. It's just
Mm-hmm.
no, and that's it. Or I don't
Mm.
want to, or I don't feel like,
Yeah.
or those kind of things, and paying more
Mm-hmm.
attention to your gut feelings, no, which are real,
Exactly.
which are
Mm-hmm.
also
Mm-hmm.
science now explains those things, because
Mm-hmm.
I think that this kind of quantum life is much
Mm-hmm.
more advanced that science has been in ever. We are not near close to understand what is happening in those kind of experiences, but now we have a more um, roof or primitive map of what is
Mm-hmm.
happening and what kind of substances are releasing inside of us. And those
Mm.
butterflies, those hands when you are sweating your hands, those things, those expressions of your body are the signals that the body is telling you this is not a safe place, or this is not a safe
Mm-hmm.
person,
Mm-hmm.
or is telling you this is exciting, this is
Mm-hmm.
something that you should do, and there's not going to be another chance, so you better
Yeah.
take it now, or who knows if it's going to repeat.
Or it could be hot.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, and I think that's the beauty as well. Like people, opportunities present themselves. It's like, do you want to say yes to it or not? Like, do you want a piece of cake? Yes or no? And it's like there's always going to be cake. There's always, you know, potential of another piece of cake. But it's just like, do you want that piece of cake? You know? And yeah, it's just like you say, it's like listening to the cues of the body.
How do you sense your body? What are the things that are more common for you in terms of safety, in terms of taking care of you, and in terms
Mm-hmm.
of this is something that I have to do?
Mm-hmm. Sure. Um, in terms of safety, it's really interesting since like releasing all, you know, the drinking and everything. It's like I'm able to sense things at the more subtle thing. Like it's almost like a grain of salt that I can feel, you know, and it kind of feels like it's here. And I'm like, oh, something's just not quite feeling right, you know?
Yeah.
Whereas in the past, it'd be like, boom, something's not quite right because I didn't pay attention to that. And, you know, over the last couple of years, there's been a battle of like, oh, give them the benefit of the doubt. I'm like, but it doesn't feel right. And it's just like, no, it doesn't quite feel right. No, thank you, you know?
Yeah.
So that kind of ties into the safety thing of like, you know, generally these days it comes in a very the subtle form, whereas before it would be like, ooh, just like this um kind of ooh, like heavy cloud. I'm like, oh,
Mm.
that's not good, you know. But because I'm paying more attention now, because I'm clearer now, I can sense it when it's that little, you know.
Mm.
Um, and what was the last part in terms of taking care of myself?
And in terms of being excited to do something.
Oh, that's the best part. Because it's just this knowing. It's just like my body just knows. And it's like it's done, you know? Like for example, I was in Bali a few years ago and my friend and I wanted to go to this festival thing and the ticket was like $150 and I had a guest list to get in and but I had this knowing that it would be okay. And we jump on the scooter, we ride there, we jump off the scooter, and we start walking towards the entrance. And I kid you not, I think there's like 4 or 5 people walking towards us. And they're like, we just left the concert or the festival. Do you want our tickets?
Oh.
And my friend, he's like, what the fuck? Like, how did you know? And I'm like, I just knew it would be okay. So it's just like this intrinsic, like the gut feeling, the intrinsic knowing of whatever it is, and just showing up for it, you know? Like we could have gone into fear mode and gone like, oh, I really don't want to pay $150. We're just not gonna go, you
Mm.
know? But I had this knowing that I'd either talk my way in or whatever, like um, but we showed up and the universe gave us, you know, the how of how it was going to work out. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's really cool. It's so cool.
Yes, yes, yes. It's really, really amazing that whenever you share those experiences, I also traveled back to mine experiences of how when you sometimes you don't want to do those things because you
Mm-hmm.
are being driven by the voices of other people
Mm-hmm.
judging
Mm-hmm.
you or saying things like, "How are you going to go if you don't know anyone?" No,
Mm-hmm.
how are you going to do that if you are not like that? If you are
Mm-hmm.
not like that, and you are not a, I don't know, let's say a good dancer. How are you going to
Mm-hmm.
go dancing if you are not really a good dancer? So
Mm-hmm.
if you listen to those voices, if
Mm-hmm.
you start paying attention to that, then the fear becomes higher inside of you
Mm-hmm.
and your trust goes just down and
Mm-hmm.
you don't do anything and that's it. The opportunity
Mm-hmm.
just passed you by. Whether
And
if you listen, if you listen to you, and if you say, well, I may not be the best dancer, but I
Mm-hmm.
know how to move, I will go, I will see what happens. And if it's not good, I
Mm-hmm.
just go back and that's it. What's the worst thing that can happen?
Mm-hmm.
No.
And like there's a few things within that. It's like first of all, that's a projection of the person's fear that's telling you, like, what are you doing? You know, and then it can also be a reflection of the fear that you have within yourself that the outside world is reflecting back to you. And it's just like, what are you going to listen to? Are you going to listen to the fear and shut down this amazing opportunity that you feel driven to do, or you're going to have the balls and go do it? And it's just like, you know, I had an experience of that right before the world shut down. I was organizing an amazing experience in Costa Rica. We hired an island and to do a transformational experience. And this is as the world's like, oh, there's a pandemic happening. And my friend was like, you shouldn't go. There's a pandemic happening. I'm like, fuck the pandemic. I'm going. And this is back in 2020. And it was really unusual because normally whenever I go abroad, I'm gone for at least a month, minimum, a month to 3 months, I'm gone. And I literally booked my ticket for 2 weeks. This is in Costa Rica and Sacramento.
Mm,
And that's unheard of. I've never done that ever in 10 years of travel. I've never gone 40 hours up the road to only go for 2 weeks, ever. And I was landing back in Australia as we had to self isolate when the world, closed in on itself. And it's like, if I had have ignored my intuition and listened to my dear friend who has my best interests at heart, which she does, I would have missed out on that trip
yeah,
because I let her fear override my knowing of fuck the pandemic. I'm going to go on this trip. My intuition knew that I would be okay. And my intuition knew to only go for 2 weeks,
yeah,
which again is unheard of. And it's just like, because I trust that, because I trust my intrinsic knowing, I was safe and I got home safe. I didn't
mm,
get stuck. So it's just like, even when the outside world is telling you you're going mad or telling you no, you shouldn't do that, but your instincts are like, fuck that. I trust me. And it's just like, that's the key right there. Listening to your gut, listening to your heart, listening to your instincts. No matter, even if it's like, that doesn't make any logical sense. It's like, the instincts know more than logic. The instincts can see. It's almost like your instincts have that bird's eye view, the eagle eye view, where we're down here and we can only see like a few steps in front of us. It knows, it sees.
yeah. And that's the connection, I think, to that higher energy that we that
Mm-hmm.
we have as we are children. For example, I have a
Yeah.
daughter, she's 8 years old,
Oh,
and
yeah.
she's uh, she's very, very intuitive in many ways.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
But whenever she wants to express something or to do something or to say something, I really, really try to encourage her to say the things, because sometimes also
Mm.
many adults have already told her how to behave in certain situations or
Mm.
what to do in certain situations, and all of those kind of restrictions that some of them can't be explained and some of them are just fear,
Mm-hmm.
are are the ones that make us adults that need validation, that look for that
Mm-hmm.
validation and that
Mm-hmm.
safety from other people, but not safety from us.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
now that you mention also the what happened in 2 years or almost 3 years ago with
Mm-hmm.
that pandemic, it was, for example, many people here also was scared and was preparing and was buying things like crazy. And I said,
Mm-hmm.
what is this? This is just madness.
Mm-hmm.
It is
Mm-hmm.
something that first of all is, well, this is just my own personal opinion, is something that is created, is fear.
Mm,
They are selling you the fear. They are telling you what to
mm,
do. They are
mhm,
attacking your brain and
mm,
giving you
mhm,
the benefit of the doubt of,
mhm,
well, you don't want to listen, be and die almost. That's what
mhm,
they said, no? Get out
mhm,
and die, and that's it. And whenever you trust in that, of course that you are going to die, because you are telling your body to depress yourself. You are telling your body
mm,
the opposite messages of what is immunity. Immunity
mhm,
is trust in yourself. Immunity,
mm,
your
mhm,
immune system is activated when you are in love with yourself, when you
mhm,
are in love, in balance with your own
mm, mhm,
strength, with your own homeostasis inside of you, which is the equilibrium of your cells, knowing that you exercise, knowing that you are healthy, knowing that you are
mhm,
strong. This
mhm,
is just going to be a disease that is going to come and go, and that's it. If you
mhm,
think like that, the possibilities of being infected are less, and the
mhm,
possibilities of being infected and just having some kind of symptoms and pass through the disease is much better than if you are afraid and trying to protect all
mm,
the time and trying to
mhm,
not touch many things or trying to just be very, very scared. So that
mhm,
um, fear imbued by the media, by all of those corporations, is what make us weak. So trusting us, and as you mentioned, trusting yourself that you were going to be safe.
mhm.
Just 2 weeks before the world closes, for many, many people, I know that that would have been crazy. And it's not crazy. It's just trusting you. It's just trusting that you were going to be immune. If anything happened
Exactly.
in between, you were going to be immune and safe to return, and that's it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I was. And that's the beauty, right? When you don't listen to people telling you what to do and dictate to you, like, oh, don't do that. Like, even my dear friend who I love and I trust, and I know she has my best interests at heart, but, you know, I was just like, mm-mm, no. I know better than you right now. Whereas if I was uncertain in myself about it, I wouldn't have gone, you know? And it's like having the courage to say, even if I wanted to go, but my intuition was like, don't, I wouldn't have gone. Like, things have opened up here, but I have felt not to travel, you know?
Hmm.
My body is saying ground, stay, which for the traveler, and I trust that, even though like I would love to go to Bali, I would love to go and jump on a plane. Like that's my free spirit, right? But something intrinsically within me is saying just stay grounded, you know?
Yeah,
Um, and that's the beauty, right? Everything is fluid, everything is always changing. But if we remain rigid and stagnated in like, all right, I need to go to the gym at 6 a.m. every day, and I need to like eat only this food and eat only that and not do that, and it's just like even my body is tensing up saying that. It's just like, well, sometimes our body needs to rest. Like I
hmm,
love going to the gym. I love it. Um, but some days I'm just too tired.
yeah,
So I rest. Some weeks I'll take a week off. And that's okay because I know my body is depleted and I know that I can't do it. And that's okay because I know next week I'll be rejuvenated and have the energy to go back. And I think people get lost in the regiment, they get lost in like the routine and they get lost in life and everybody else having influence on around them rather than like How do I feel? What do I need? Like, and just really tuning in to your energy field and tuning into your body and just tuning into, and I was hearing like your 5 pillars as well. It's just like, what does my whole body need in this moment? You know,
Yeah,
is it to go to the gym? Is it to rest? Is it to go swim? Like, what is it? What does your body need? And it's okay if it changes, you know?
of course, of course.
Um,
Yeah, beautiful,
yeah.
beautiful way to, I think, summarize everything that we have talked, because it's
Mm-hmm,
just making those simple questions
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
to yourself, not to anyone
Yeah.
else, not validating
No.
anything. It's
Yeah.
just knowing that when you need a nap, and that's it.
Yeah.
Even if,
Simple.
how are you going to sleep at 3 p.m.? Because I want to, because I need
I'm
to.
tired.
Yes, I'm tired and this is going to recover, and or I want to
Simple.
watch a game of football or whatever, and that's
Yeah.
what I need right now. That's something that
Yeah.
I want to do, and that's it. I don't have to explain things or schedules or
Mm-hmm,
anything to anyone else. And we are used to explaining, we are
mm-hmm,
used to giving reasons for
mm-hmm,
what we do. And that's
mm-hmm,
what constrict us many times. And the opposite is what you are saying, is the questions are to you
mm-hmm.
and the answers come
Mm.
from you. No?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Very, I love that. It's beautiful.
Thank you for this amazing conversation. And I just
My
want
pleasure.
to round up with one thing that you can just tell the people on the audience, to help them to pay more attention to the quantum life.
Mm-hmm. Mm. It is by feeling, by getting out of the logical, structured mind and feel like what's true for you and having the courage to say yes or no, whatever that is,
Yeah.
and stop appeasing people and honor your truth. And people will either meet you there or they won't.
Mhm.
But the most important thing is to just honor yourself and honor what feels right for you.
Yeah. Thank you,
And
Ray.
that's where the magic happens.
Yes.
That's where it happens.
Thank you. And how can people contact you, or what is the best way to contact you if they want your help to unpeel the layers?
Sure. Yeah, that's my jam. They can find me on LinkedIn, or Facebook, Instagram. But yeah, just Google my name and you'll find me. Whoever's ready to find me will find me.
Okay.
Um,
Perfect. Anyway, we are going to put your best link in the show
ah,
notes.
yes,
So
cool.
that's what we are going to do. And thank you, everyone, for listening, for paying attention, for being here with us. And remember that 2023 can be your best year if you really want to. So pay attention to your quantum life and subscribe to the program that I'm going to release next year. Thank you very much. Thank you, Rachel. It was a beautiful talk.
No worries. Thank you for having me.